it's Will and Max with the Everyday Gear channel. We want to do a review on Will's EDC knife, the Spyderco, so get to it, bud.
This is the Spyderco Resilience, the largest in Spyderco's import line with the Tenacious and others. As you'll notice in my upcoming reviews, I'm not a huge fan of just reading through spec sheets and telling everybody how much everything weighs and how long everything is. If you're watching this video, you've probably already spent an hour in your living room late at night on your laptop looking up all that stuff anyway. So, but it's the 4 1/4 inch blade model. Just a quick overall, I'm not a huge fan of the knife, and we're going to start that discussion with the blade steel. It's 8CR 13 MOV. I've had 8CR in other knives. I've had similar steels from guys like Kershaw, and I've also had other different blade steels from Spyderco. And I will say that this blade steel is definitely not becoming of the $45-ish price point. Dulls quickly, it's chipped on me, it dents rather quickly. I have an okay edge on it right now, but it's just, I'm not overly impressed with it. I don't know if it's the heat treat or what it is, but I have a hard time keeping this knife sharp. It dulls, again, it dulls rather quickly. I do like that it has this nice precise tip on it, and you can really get, I mean, this knife is enormous for an EDC knife, to be honest with you, and you can still scrape your fingernails with it and do fine work with it. I do like that aspect. I attribute a lot of that to the blade shape. Classic Spyderco blade shape, very similar to the Enduras, a lot of Spyderco knives. Moving down into the handle, it's got G10 scales with presumably stainless liners, open pillar construction, which is nice, easy to clean out. And the G10 it's not quite G10 in the sense it's a lot smoother. There's not quite as much texture there. The checkering on it is very fine. There's not a lot of like rough texture surface, so it does get kind of slippery when your hands are wet. My biggest complaint handle-wise, though, is twofold. But first and foremost, this finger choil is enormous. You can park a Works Mini Cooper in that finger choil.
They designed it around like Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, it's a Dwayne Johnson finger choil is really what it is. And the problem being, I have relatively small hands for a dude. I wear a medium mechanics glove, and if you're trying to choke up on this thing to use a thumb ramp, which is great, by the way, love the thumb ramp, nice texturing, classic Spyderco, you end up with 2 fingers in here, and the liner lock bar just eats into your fingers because of the way the meat of your fingers ends up behind it, trying to choke up and use it. And so for anything that's not a menial task, any kind of, like I've done some wood carving with this, making tent stakes, a little bit of firewood prep, stuff like that, this is not a comfortable knife to use for dudes with smaller hands for sure. That finger choil just eats up so much of what could have been a comfortable handle. Very nice beveled edges all the way around. That stuff's awesome. But this either needed to be shorter or shallower, or I needed to buy a Tenacious, basically, because this thing is huge. Moving on to the rest of the handle, love, love, love the Spyderco pocket clip. Always have. It's the same. Great stainless clip, great retention, doesn't get caught on stuff easily, rides pretty deep in the pocket. Love the integrated lanyard hole here in the center, and of course, as with most Spydercos, particularly in this line, it's fully ambidextrous, so you can carry it tip up, tip down, right or left side, lefties, or if you're a righty guy and you want to run it in the left pocket, it's great for that, no problems. Speed and deployment and getting the knife out, I also find to be kind of a frustrating task because the knife handle is so large that when it's positioned in pocket and you go to grab it, invariably I end up having to maneuver around quite a bit before I actually get it out. Now, I could carry it tip down and open this way, but the problem with that is it's so large and the blade does tend to shake out rather easily, of course it won't on camera, that I can end up with this thing a 1/4 inch open in my pocket, and that's not a good day for anybody. So I pretty much only carry it tip up, and you really do have to maneuver around to get to it. That being said, opens rather quickly. There's some phosphor bronze washers in here. Very smooth in and out, despite the fact that the blade centering is terrible. It's awful, and I've had $20 Kershaws that had better centering than this. I've had it apart. I've changed washers around. I've tried messing with the pivot, and the centering just isn't there. It's just not, and it doesn't really matter what I do. It's riding the scales on one side or the other. Max, your 2 cents on the Resilience?
If I can give my 2 cents, I've never carried this knife, but I have used it a little bit. When I first saw it in Will's pocket, I asked him what it was. It didn't look like it was going to be this big, so that's a plus. And I thought my EDC knife was big, say MP Smith & Wesson, but this thing is just huge. So, I mean, if you want to carry a machete in your pocket, go for it. It's not really my type of thing. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents. It's massive, but when you put it in your pocket, it doesn't look.
No,
that
it doesn't. And I'll actually show a little bit of in pocket. It carries just like
it looks like it could just be a small.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything. But again, trying to get that thing out and then shuffling around and then getting to it, not my favorite. And again, I should say I'm not a small EDC knife guy necessarily. No. I went to this after a full-size Benchmade Reptilian. I have no problems carrying like Kershaw Thermites or whatever, full, 3.5, 4-inch knives, but there's just something about it that's just a 1/4 inch wrong in every direction. And so I would go ahead and not recommend it, to be honest with you. I could see this being useful in kind of a backpacking, camping type scenario.
Oh yeah, for sure camping.
Definitely needs some more blade length. It's still relatively light. I know I said I wasn't going to do specs, but I think it's like 5.5 ounces. But it's just too big for EDC. I like having a stout EDC blade. I really do. I'm a big fan of the 3.5, 4-inch knives, but it's just too big. If you've got relatively normal dude-sized hands or dudette-sized hands, it's too big.
Yeah.
But again, nice slim package. Good quality from Spyderco. I haven't had any kind of like breakage issues or manufacturing problem. I mean,
it'd be good to keep in a car or something.
Definitely. Yeah. Fishing tackle, box knife, car knife, whatever. That's where this is headed. Yeah. Actually, is to the tackle box or to the car because it's too big.
There's a lot of different uses, just probably not in your pocket as an EDC knife.
And it's again not too heavy, not physically too thick or anything. Just too much blade and too hard to open. So that's the Spyderco Resilience. I got mine from Amazon. We're going to throw a link to that. And everybody's got it. Knife Ship Free, Blade HQ. And they're always usually about $40-$45. So this is Will Orchard from the Everyday Gear channel recommending the Spyderco Tenacious and not necessarily the Resilience. And that's all today, guys.
Yep, we're the EDC channel. No, we're not. We are the Everyday Gear channel with Will's EDC knife. And this is Everyday Gear for everyday people.